folks, Papa Boris here reviewing my fourth game in the so-called Friday tournament, the secret expert mode French social media tournament. We're up against BatTotoro, a very strong player, and this game, together with my previous game against the game's designer, serves as a very important lesson in contrasts, and I'm actually a little bit behind on my game reviews. I've played a lot of games since then, tournament and otherwise, and the lesson I learned from this game compared to the previous one is one that I still follow to this day. So, very, very important educational game, at least in my growth as a leaders player. Let's take a look at what happened. So I banned the Illusionist, just like I did against Caster T. I decided to grab the Royal Guard here this time. My opponent moves. He, by the way, has banned the Hermit and Cub, just like is standard for the top player metagame. He grabs the Acrobat and the Claw. Very strong start for him. I summon my Royal Guard into the center, and I decide to go ahead and push it all the way. I don't really care if my opponent claws it. That doesn't really make a difference. And yes, this does allow the Acrobat to jump, you know, here and here, but my opponent could have moved the leader and jumped there anyway, so I don't really think anything is lost by having the Guard here. And then I grab the Bruiser, just like I did against Caster T. So the idea is that now in the banning stage, I'm going to ban the Jailer and put my opponent in this difficult spot of, does he take the Protector, or does he potentially play against an unopposed Bruiser? Now, my opponent, interestingly, bans the Assassin, so there's something going on with the Assassin. It's not just the designer who loves the Assassin a lot. People really love this character. I don't know exactly what the deal is. I've never seen it as doing anything more than a supporting role, but in any case, the Assassin gets banned. I ban the Jailer, and now it's my opponent's turn. And my opponent, after moving the Claw, moving the leader, jumping with the Acrobat, takes the Protector. Just takes it. He's like, hey, you took the Bruiser? Jailer's been banned? All right, I'm taking the Protector. Watch what happens with my opponent having a Protector now, even though, you know, it does take a drafting choice away from something that could have been, you know, more juicy, more tasty. You know, we still have a Wanderer in here. There's still a Vizier in here. There's still a Brewmaster. There's still a Rider. There's still tasty stuff on the field, but my opponent just takes the Protector. Okay, so I get my Bruiser going, step up with my Royal Guard. I decide to grab the Brewmaster. Maybe the Vizier would have been a little bit more appealing here. I think perhaps I was trying to force things a little bit too much with this Brewmaster-Bruiser combo, but I take the Brewmaster. My opponent steps up with his pieces, puts the leader back to safety, starts getting the Protector up there. The Acrobat holds the center. Grabs the Wanderer, very strong piece. Now I move my Bruiser into the middle and my Brewmaster, but notice the Protector gets there. The Protector is here in time to hold up this Acrobat and just prevent me from being able to push. So my Bruiser is doing absolutely nothing, and it was well worth this drafting choice. It's not like I have some, you know, crazy aggression or something that I pulled off because my opponent took the Protector. It didn't happen. My second draft choice was this piece that only moves one square at a time. So at an early part of the game, I used a drafting pick to take something that's not very explosive, it's not really doing much, and my opponent gets to control the center, and thus the game. Now here I do think I blunder pretty awfully. I take the Archer. I don't really think that that's justified. I should have taken the Rider, or even the Vizier, which was still there. The Archer ends up being kind of a stupid play. And maybe like I would have been fine here. I'm not saying I lost just because my opponent took the Protector after I took the Bruiser, but just watch the systemic demolition derby that takes place here. My opponent has the middle. I can't do anything about it because the Protector's touching all the pieces. So there's no like, you know, Brewmaster here, Bruiser there. We have kind of like the budget Bruiser or the budget Protector happening here when you have your pieces in this wedge. Like behind the piece, the Bruiser doesn't have a place to move, but I could have moved in with the Bruiser if I had if my opponent didn't have the Protector, because my Brewmaster could have given it a kick and I could have come in at an angle and done this. But nope, that's not happening. I don't have that choice. So I'm just basically meekly forming a wall here. And my Royal Guard is up there. He's not really doing much, but I figure I can always bring him back anytime, so there's no reason to bring him back prematurely. Maybe something weird happens and I get a piece by the wall, but my opponent's just doing a blob, just forming a wall here, where it's really difficult for me to get around. And yeah, it would have been really great here to just go honk and then start moving my Bruiser towards this leader, but instead I don't get to do that. And so now my plan, I don't know if I really had one here. I decide to try just kind of kicking my leader around to be a little further away from some of these pieces. I'm not sure how effective that is, considering that the Acrobat and the Claw are two pieces that can change their position relatively quickly in the game. I do bring back my Royal Guard, This is to stop the Wanderer from coming in and cutting my leader off. Because I don't have the Vizier, there's no like swinging around this side after a move like that. Even though I think I would still get checkmated there, but I don't even have that option. So I decided to be defensive and see if I can maybe sneak my archer around. Now my opponent makes an interesting move here. He actually puts his leader there, which, you know, he could have put it further back, obviously. But this is spicy. This is a very close to being hit. You have to be careful because if my Broodmaster could push my leader up and then I move here, I actually could summon the Royal Guard there and then step in with the Archer for checkmate. But the Royal Guard is himself in the way, which isn't a mistake. I needed to put it here to stop the Wanderer from going here, but my opponent very precisely puts his leader just out of reach. I decide to go for it anyways. I don't really see what else I'm going to do this game. So I summon the Royal Guard to get him within 1 square of the leader. So I got 2 pieces behind enemy lines here. But it's just not going to be enough. My opponent simply shoves his pieces towards my leader. The conga line moves in. He puts the leader back away from my Royal Guard. If I had the Vizier, this would not be possible because I could move like this, summon here, and step in. And then that would be checkmate. But, of course, then my opponent could have played that differently. As it is, since I didn't take the Vizier, which, to be fair, would have been in place of this Archer, so the Archer wouldn't be existing in that case. But I decided to go back in the corner. This is an extremely temporary defense. Notice, by the way, that if my Bruiser could bruise, I could be totally safe. Like, I could just do this, and then I'd be totally safe, and I wouldn't really have any problems. But because I can't do that, I'm making this extremely ramshackle, very temporary defense, and I knew that there was no way this was actually going to work. But my opponent finds, of course, a fairly simple save here. He steps in most of his pieces towards my leader, but the Claw, whoop, just hops back for defense. And now there's no way for my Royal Guard to win this game of Ring Around the Rosie. I decide to kick my leader out, put the Royal Guard there, and keep the Archer where he is. But there's just absolutely no way this is checkmate. You know, my opponent can just put his leader here and put the Claw there to stop the Archer from being able to touch him, or just being here is enough because the Royal Guard is far enough away that it can't actually touch his leader. In any case, at this point, my opponent just steps in with his pieces, and with the 3 pieces just kind of maneuvering towards my leader, and my leader not being in a position to run around an open space, and my Bruiser not being in a position to push things away from my leader, which would have been very helpful here, like if I could have pushed this Acrobat, for example, then I could have like just like Acrobat there, Bruiser there, and then the leader can hide here. The Acrobat's the only piece that can touch my leader, but as it is, I can't do that because of the Protector, so I pass the turn, and yeah, I know that I've lost. So, main moral of the story here, if you're going to go for an opening where you try to take the Bruiser, then you need to fully commit. You need to, I'm going to actually click back to the beginning of this replay here. You need, instead of banning a strong piece like I did, banning the Illusionist, what you need to do is you need to ban the Jailer first. And then after you take the Bruiser, you ban the Protector. You have to commit. And I'm not saying it's like a winning opening or anything, but it is a fun opening. It works pretty well. It can even work against really strong players, as we may see on this channel. There's a certain game I played that was outside of a tournament where I managed to beat a strong player using this opening. So it's not a game winning anything, but if you are going to do it, it can work. And you need to just commit to it. You need to just accept the fact that your opponent's going to get, you know, strong pieces like the Illusionist, for example. You play defensively, you stabilize, and then once you've stabilized, then your unopposed Bruiser can march to victory. But you have to commit and let your opponent have whatever they want. Otherwise, your opponent can just take the Protector, and then you are at a disadvantage. In my opinion, that is my current thinking about the game. Thanks for watching, everybody. Hope you enjoyed it. Please like and or subscribe, and I'll see you again soon. Alas, this for me was the end of the Single Elimination Friday tournament. Congrats to BatTotoro, and I'm going to be rooting for you, buddy, as the final rounds finish up. This one has very long time control, so it won't be done for a while, but BatTotoro, I hope you do great.